For our last part on our road trip spreadsheet, we are going to add one more tab. So I'm going to take this tab and I want to duplicate it. So I right-clicked on the tab at the bottom. I'm going to hit duplicate because we're still going to work with the same data. So duplicate. And for this tab, for our last thing, we are going to be taking our numbers and our data. And we're going to look at kind of like the next power move for spreadsheets, which is these are a really, really good way to make graphs. So I'm going to rename, so right click or use the little drop down guy here to get my tab menu, go to rename, and this is going to be graphing since I'm already in the road trip spreadsheet. And I'm going to hit enter. Now the really nice thing about spreadsheets is almost all of them have pretty powerful graphing tools. Sometimes, however, they are called charts. So we'll be essentially inserting a chart. So you guys can take a look, and if you want, you can follow along and kind of graph the same sort of things that I'm going to do, or you can insert your own chart and kind of make something creative. Either way is great. We would like to see, probably multiple types of graphs. So the first thing I want to do is see as like a whole piece of my trip, miles traveled, how long is each length as like a portion of my trip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight under miles traveled all the cells. So I clicked and dragged. I'm going to go to insert chart. And I'm going to wait. So now it's going to bring up my chart menu. Charts get even more customizable. Now this is of course a math class, so we need to make sure that we do all of our appropriate chart things. So click specific text or numbers to edit, format them, etc., etc. Got it, noted. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this from a column chart or a bar graph, and I think I want it to be a pie chart. And this certainly is really, really nice, except I don't know what any of the things are here. So this is a really pretty graph, but like, what's the green? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add label. And so the label for the whole graph, the title, is miles traveled. So by activating that, now I can see which each of those distances are. I don't want aggregate, but for my value for miles traveled, I'm going to go ahead and select data range. Pick those and see if that screws everything up here. Kind of did a little bit. Edit chart, so little dots brings me to edit chart if I want. Use row 11 as headers. That's all really good. Use column C as labels. Now if I want to change what the labels are, because I don't really want to know necessarily the miles, I could change that and it would turn them off, because C is what I use to make this. So use column C as labels, data range, that's all good. I want to customize now. Chart style is all still pretty good. You can make it 3D if you want, but certainly you don't have to. Pie chart is good. So for pie slices, I can click on one pie slice, make it a different color if I'd like. Chart and axis titles. We need to have a title for our chart. This is miles traveled per each leg of our trip. Fonts are all good. And then for our legend, position, that's all good. Usually that has automatic legend positioning, and that is really in good shape. So now we can see each section of miles as a portion of the whole. So that's how we can make a pie graph. So making pie graph, that is kind of our thing number one. And then let's move it over here so we can still see everything and resize it. That way it's accessible. Now the second graph we're going to make is, let's make that, that bar graph. So we've already kind of done some stuff with the miles. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the cost per mile. So I'm going to go ahead I'm going to highlight all of my data here. And then I'm going to go ahead and insert a chart. And this time I am going to leave it as a bar graph. It's already done the title. I do need to make sure that I have my y-axis labeled, and I need to make sure that my x-axis has a label. So column chart, I like that. Yep, I think that's good. We're not looking at the advanced ones yet. X-axis, I need to add an x-axis. And I'm going to get my x-axis by selecting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 2. So I've got 9 columns. So I'm going to go ahead and take my 9 there. Did not seem to work. Let's try it again. So I want to edit my chart. I want to add the x-axis, and my x-axis should be select a range. Let's go ahead and take this. See if I'm okay. And now it's lined up that Milan High School, Shenandoah. So these are all the cost per mile with those as my ending points. X-axis is destination. I don't want to aggregate, but let's click it just to see what it does. Nothing that we really want, so we're going to make that go back. Series is cost per mile. That's all very good. Switch rows. Nope. So a couple other things that we want to do here and that we're going to look for in our chart. Chart style, all that is fine. Change background color. Maybe it makes you happier, but just the background here. Chart border color. We could have a red border. Don't need to have any of those things. Chart and axis titles. So cost per mile is a total title, which is great. Title text, that's all good. Series, so I have cost per mile. My left axis. And you can switch it and it changes where those are. I would like to add data labels, so we're going to be looking for that. So you can see the amounts right there. Cost per mile, that's good. Chart and axis titles. So I need to put a label on my X or my horizontal axis. So this is end destination. This is looking at it, that is trip destination. So when I'm going to Shenandoah National Park, that costs me 10 cents per mile. When I'm going to Everglades National Park, 10 cents. Petrified Forest. So these are my destination is what's listed here, as opposed to my starting point. Milan High School being 12, so that's good. And a couple other tricks that we just want to see you guys add in. Nothing with the legend. Horizontal axis, we don't need to change anything there. But you can adjust where the labels are. You could make them 90 degrees. I like 30 and 60, those are good. We're going to do 30 for this one. If you do 60, that's going to be okay. Vertical axis is already fine. Grid lines, also already fine. So the last thing we want to see you do is just the color of the graph. So we want to format the data point, and we just want to see you change color. So I'm hovering over that bar. I'm right-clicking or two-finger clicking, formatting the data point so that I get some pretty colors here. Green. I'm just going to adjust all these. Pink's good. Dark blue. Just for variety's sake, we want to see that you can go in and add a little bit of color to what we have, or a lot of bit of color, because I feel like there's kind of a lot of bit of color. So now my graph has colors, got lines, I have axes. Both my axes are labeled, both with data and with title for the chart, and I am all set. So let's go ahead and get out of my chart editor. Again, And shrink this down so I can see it. Where you at? Yeah. Put that somewhere that we can see. So what we're looking for 2 graphs of different types with titles, labels everywhere it's appropriate, and then show us that you can adjust the colors on the graph. And maybe later this year, if we get time, we'll show you some more really cool different graphing types that we can do on Google Sheets or really any spreadsheet. As always, please email Ms. Keel or myself with any questions. And when you share it, make sure that you adjust the sharing settings so that Ms. Keel and I can edit, copy the link, and put that in the Create tab as you are turning in your work. Thank you very much. Like I said, good luck. Let us know if you need any help.